The internet has provided access to virtually anyone. We can learn anything at any time. However, most of this information has been put behind paywalls, or people just don't want to share what they know. I think that's stupid. So I started a podcast that will provide inside access to successful people who are doing things no one else is doing. Hear directly from them how they've become successful while also disrupting society. This is Leaders of the New School. Today I'm here with Rick Suthers, who is a travel photographer and content creator based out of Pittsburgh. You've known Rick now maybe like 2 years, right?
Yep, sounds about right.
You know, we've been involved with different creative communities, but the thing that always stood out to me was that he has figured out ways to monetize his brand while still retaining his brand integrity, so he stays himself. Why don't you just tell everybody, just more about what you do?
Sure. So I have a photography and videography company called On the Run Images, and what that allows me to do is work with clients for festivals, working with hotels, working weddings, and other special events like that. But in addition, my personal brand, known as Rick on the Run, I am a travel content creator. So I work with brands that align with like my core values. And when I'm traveling places, I create content, usually video or photo content that tells a story or showcases a brand or a location that we're trying to drive tourism to.
So you have figured out a way to do what a lot of people aspire to do, which is essentially get paid being yourself.
Essentially.
And creating cool things, right?
Yeah, and going cool places.
And you've been getting recognized too. Like I see you on lists, it's like hot black men traveling, right?
Yeah, it's a few of those. I think most recently was the Travel Noir article, top black travel photographers to follow or something like that.
Which is a cool list to be on.
Yeah.
Probably good for your DMs.
It works.
Yeah, right. So tell me how you go from you make the leap from I'm someone who creates content to now I'm someone that gets paid to create content. Because that's the leap a lot of people want to make.
Right.
And I think what you see a lot of times is people try to portray the image that they're getting paid to do things
all the time
when they're not.
Right.
Because they view that as a way to start getting paid to do things. Is that the correct way to go about it?
That's not the way I would go about it. And in my experience, it's more just being authentic to who you are and not chasing trends. And opportunities tend to come your way. But in addition to that, it's getting your business together on the back end. It's having a solid website, putting together a media kit, not being afraid to send email pitches to brands that you want to work with, or not even being afraid at first to do some work for free. Like if you stay at a cool hotel, maybe you start taking pictures around the resort. I've done this in the Dominican Republic. I was going to visit. I was already going, but I just sent an email to the marketing lady, and I'm like, this is what I do. I take cool pictures, essentially. This was maybe 5 years ago, and I'm like, how do you feel about me taking some pictures for the resort? And we worked something out. It was cool. I came down, they took care of my stay, they fed me, it was a good time. I don't think I got any actual cash for that one. This was a few years ago, but that was my first time working with a travel brand because it was a hotel. But I think you just got to step out there.
So there's so much of this, and I think there's two things that come up when you're talking. First is the idea of consumption versus creation. So a lot of people who consider themselves creators, they're really just replicators. Right. So they're seeing things that are happening and they're like, cool, I see how Rick is getting paid to do things. I'm gonna do things similar to how Rick does it. But what they don't realize is Rick's already getting paid to do it.
Right.
Why is someone now gonna pay you if you're just doing the things that Rick does? Right. So replicating things that are successful isn't the way to go about it because you're just doing what people are already getting paid to do.
Exactly.
What you have to do is reverse engineer what made Rick successful and figure out the key elements and model from success and then use what you're good at to develop something new. Agreed. So how did you find your style?
I think leaning into my core competency. Early on, it was a lot of adventure stuff. My very first camera was a GoPro. So I was running and gunning kind of with that. And then soon after that, I got into drones very early on. So that was something people on Instagram hadn't seen at the time. They're like, whoa, what is that? And then I started taking photography very seriously and working with clients here in Pittsburgh and kind of like honing down on the technical stuff and really like getting it together and leaning into that so that I could be good at what I was doing and not just like kind of going by the seat of my pants.
The other thing you bring up is, you said you have to kind of just put yourself out there. And I think there's so much of success that comes from just like asking.
Right.
And not being afraid to like get shut down and be
right.
seem like you're weird.
Right.
We get some of our biggest clients just by me reaching out to people and saying, hey, can I help your brand?
Yeah.
Or not being afraid to do something for free. Like one way, and this is a great tip for anyone, if you're trying to work with big clients, go and do something for free for them
right.
that is going to add value, and then what happens is either they'll then hire you to do more work, or guess what? If you've never worked with a big brand before, now you have a big brand in your portfolio. It makes sense for now somebody else who's a big brand to say, oh, you work with brands on this level? We're gonna pay you to do it. But so many people don't wanna take that leap to do something for free
right.
and provide that ask. I just said to someone the other day, a big company in Pittsburgh, hey, love your company. I don't think your social content's that great. I'd create a 30-second commercial spot for you for free. And they're like, really? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. So talk to me about like just going and asking without, because you're not looking for permission to be successful, right? Like
right.
you're achieving success in your own lane, so you're not looking for permission or anyone to say, hey, Rick, go and do this.
Exactly.
Where does that come from? Like, what's that mindset?
So I think it comes from just kind of knowing your self-worth and knowing what you bring to the table, essentially. Like I know in my mind, like the type of content that I'm capable of creating. I know that 9 times out of 10, any brand that fits within my lifestyle, my niche that I align with, I can create content for them that's going to convert. And I'm confident in that. I'm confident in my skills technically with the camera to accomplish that in pretty much any environment. So when I'm going out and cold pitching, I know what I bring to the table. So it's not like I'm stepping my foot out there and I'm not prepared. Because there's a lot of times I think people who do have the confidence to get out there and ask people for things don't have like their own things together on the back end to actually get the job done. There's plenty of people who put themselves in positions they're unprepared for.
It's a great point because I think I view it as, getting a brand deal is one thing, but do you understand the sales process? Do you understand the strategy, the contract, right. Every single piece? Because the more knowledgeable that you can appear in that initial conversation,
right.
the more comfortable someone is going to be working with you. If I'm going to hire you as a videographer and I say, hey Rick, how would you shoot this? And you're like, oh, I'd probably stand here. And it's like, no, I want to know like what's everything like that. And like if someone's been in that conversation before. That's where like I've honestly just reached out to business owners before I was even in a position to work with them, just to hear how they talked about things.
Right.
There's so much of it where it's like mentorship can help, but just going and like reaching out and just getting to know people who are in those positions.
Man, I would say like building community in whatever area you want to work in has been a huge benefit for me. I've got a really dope community of travel content creators and just photographers and videographers in general, and we bounce ideas and opportunities and informational things. Like if somebody learned something new on YouTube today, they're like, share it out. Like, guys, this is like gonna keep us ahead of the game. Like, so those types of things are super important.
So let's break down, because I agree with everything you're saying. I think it's incredibly important. Let's break down getting a brand deal. Okay. So like because that's honestly like anyone who's watching, they're like, all right, how do I get a brand deal?
Right.
And the thing is like,
mystery.
and I know you, like, you're not someone who's like, all right, I'm not going to tell you. Because
right.
You can give them the blueprint because they don't have what you have, and that's you being yourself, right? So there's nothing wrong with giving people the process. Like us as a creative agency, I teach people how we build brands. I give them the playbook. And they're like, aren't you afraid we're gonna, like, no, because like I offer something different. Like
that's still unique.
Right, exactly. So if we're looking at building a brand, first thing is get your brand together, right?
Yeah.
What is your differentiating factor? What can you consistently create content on?
And
Would you agree?
Communicate that, yeah.
And then how do you communicate that?
Right.
What do you think the next step is?
Putting that somewhere where it's visible, like having a website, I think is super important. Having a place where brands who happen to pass by your Instagram can click a link and learn everything about you in a short, digestible format. I think that's super important as well.
Step 3 is what? Is it building audience? You don't need a big audience, but you need a connected audience, right?
Exactly. So I think that comes into kind of knowing what your mission is, because telling your unique story is how people are going to align with you. Like, there's a lot of factors that go into who you are. Like myself, as an example, if you look at me on Instagram, first you see I'm a black male, I'm a photographer, I travel, I'm from Pittsburgh. I don't talk about this a lot, but I left my job to do this full time a few years ago, so that's something people can relate to, because that's always like the dream. People want to leave their job. So it's all those different things that make me connect with people. So you have to put that out there and kind of be authentic in order for people to relate to you.
So you put yourself out there, you get to exposure, you build the audience, okay, and then you create a lot of content that you're not going to get paid for.
Absolutely.
And it's stuff that is going to get maybe 20 views at times.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of like having the resiliency to just keep going.
Right.
What was that like for you?
It was tough. I'm not gonna lie. Like like Erica says, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit. So there was a lot of content, and there still is a lot of content that I've never posted, just because I was like super like wary, like, oh, are they gonna like it? But I think I've gotten over that hump in recent years, and it helps a lot, just being consistent and showing people your process. And now when I go back and look at content that I put out years ago, I can see the progression. And it's like, I'm glad that I put that out there, because now you can kind of see my growth.
That is the advice, honestly, like what you're saying. I give a lot of people, like, how do I start building my brand?
Yeah.
And I tell them, create a burner account.
Yeah.
And don't tell anyone about it. Create content and just post on it.
Yep.
And if you really want to get like crazy with it, tell 5 of your friends to check it out, and tell them to act like random people and comment on it and hate on it, or say that they like it. Because what it does is it kind of puts you in that world. It's like a simulation of what having a brand is like.
Yeah.
And then it's not just like, oh, the first one, everyone's going to see it. Mm-hmm. It's like creating a book or a movie, and it's like the first time you're ever doing it, everyone's going to see it. It's the same thing with content. Like, people are going to judge it, so get the practice out there of having people judge it, and then just find that community, 10 other people who create content, and be like, hey, what do you think of this? And get their opinion, because just posting it out to the world can be intimidating at times.
Absolutely.
So, all right, you got your content out there, you started posting, you started growing. Then do you reach out to a brand and say, hey, I'll do a video for you for free? Or do you try to get paid? Do you wait for them to reach out to you? What's that next step?
So it definitely works both ways. A lot of times brands will notice you doing something similar to what they already have planned for their marketing. But other times you do have to reach out. And yeah, I'd say don't be scared of doing things like free product. I see a lot of people who are like too proud to create content in exchange for a t-shirt. But if that's a brand you want to work with, or even if it's similar to a brand that you actually want to get to work with in the future, and you create that content and prove that you can be successful in it, that's like you're one step closer to your goal. So I'd say don't be afraid to start small, do things for free. We've all done it. Or in exchange for product. That's a lot of times what brands will offer you. And smaller brands, so you kind of have to read the room and know what brand you're talking to. If you're talking to a guy selling t-shirts, any celebrity, and he wants you to create a video for him, he doesn't have the same budget as Nike. So you can't like be on your high horse and expect them to pay you a bunch of money for something, especially if you're not proven in the space.
And then from there, so you get your first few ad deals, and then they start to get bigger. And what I see from you is yours isn't just like, hey, I love to use this phone case. I'm so glad I have this phone case. There's creative direction to it, right? What was the video you did of you fishing?
Right. Yeah.
What brand was that?
That was LL Bean.
LL Bean. And I commented, and I was like, this makes me want to buy LL Bean. I mean, part of it was like, I'm your friend, and I wanted them to see the comment, but it did.
Yeah.
So, is there part of your process that's like, I want to make this not look like an ad?
Right. So that's important to me, is to, first of all, try to only work with brands that actually fit my lifestyle, and not just like reach after every little cool gadget that I could probably sell, probably could take a cool picture of, but doesn't really like fit with who I am. So LL Bean, it was like, I've been fishing since I could walk. I was like, this is perfect. Of course I can do this. And it so happened that I actually had fishing trips planned around the time that deal came through. So in addition to that video, I also took a road trip down to the Outer Banks with my dad and my uncle and my cousins that we had planned way in advance. It just happened to line up, and it's like, this is actually just me going fishing, and I just happened to have this stuff from LL Bean.
So it was you. It was just you being you, which
Exactly.
is what I always tell people is the biggest differentiating factor with building a brand.
Right.
If you and I are both creating brands, I'm going to say, all right, mine's going to be different from yours. Well, why? Well, because mine is me,
Right.
and yours is you, but we get in this habit, this cycle of replication, and there's no differentiation and there's no connection because everybody is just regurgitating what the other is doing. So I think that's how you break down getting a brand deal, right? Is there anything else?
I don't think so. If people want to go into technicalities about, what a media kit should look like and, how to draft an email, there's 100 answers to that, but
and there's resources
that's
online.
How you get to it, right?
So you get to create content, you get to travel, you get to be yourself, and you get paid to do it, and you get put on lists that give you some good exposure.
Yeah.
That's pretty much you, right?
It's pretty cool.
All right. Yeah. A lot of people are gonna be jealous of that. All right. No, this is good. We keep it short for a reason.
Cool. Cool.
I think there's a lot of value in this conversation. So
I think we got some
appreciate your
good
time.
stuff. Yep.
Cool.
No
Thanks,
doubt.
Rick.
All right.
Now we at the top, we celebrating. We the leader of the new school, baby.